So I wanted to make a quick video on this FlosStyle frame that I just got in the mail. I did pre-order it via quadlab.io, and I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be my second 5-inch build, and I wanted to kind of just share some quick initial impressions on the frame itself and some of my reasonings for choosing it, and then also why I'm so excited about this frame, what I think it does really well, and why you might want one of these too, whether you're a beginner pilot like me or whether you're a more advanced pilot. Now, before we get started, in honor of Bob Rugi, aka Kebab FPV, the designer and creator of this frame, I am going to put a table of contents down in the description so you can skip around, because I am going to compare this to my first build, which is on a Martian frame, and you may not care about a Martian frame at all. So go ahead and check out the contents, the table of contents below, and you can skip around to the parts that are interesting to you. But first off, I wanted to start with my first impressions of the frame. As you can see here, I've only just installed the arms and this bottom brace plate. And man, this thing is really, really solid, and it's smaller than I imagined. I thought it was going to be a lot bigger because, again, I have this Martian over here that was my first build, but it's really small. These arms, these boomerang arms, I think it's like, like 5mm thickness, and these are the same arms that are on the all the other Floss frames, which is pretty amazing how they've kind of connected all these frames into one family, and I'll go into that later. But it looks amazing, feels great, and so let's go over some of the basic features. Some of the basic features are, it's only 4 pieces, well, technically 5 pieces of carbon. You have the 2 boomerang arms, which this arm and this arm are the same piece. And then the top and the bottom plate are also, which way does it go? Are also the exact same piece, like this. Which is great. It makes it simple, and everything works really well like that. Another feature is this bottom little brace plate. It looks like it's changed a few times in design, but it looks pretty strong, and it's very lightweight, not a lot of material, but still strong to kind of hold everything together. Now you can see more easily on this top plate one of the design features that Bob didn't really go into in a great detail on his videos, at least not that I remember, and that is the mounting. This is the same as the bottom plate, so I'll just look at it here. You actually have 3 places, here, here, and here, where you can mount a 20x20 millimeter stack, or you can do a normal, there's the normal 30mm stack. So you can do a 30mm stack and then another 20 here. This 20mm stack, I think you can probably only put something there if you have another 20mm stack here. I don't think that this 30mm hole and this they look too close together to kind of put those. But I think this is a really cool feature and allows for some different ways to build it out. You got your battery straps here, 2 battery straps, only on one side because that's all you need. You got these antenna holes here for your receiver antennas. You've got your standard mounting hole for a Brain 3D GoPro mount that works on some of the other frames. The arms themselves, besides them being boomerang arms that make it really strong and are probably less prone to break and very rigid, they're really thin, which means that you're going to have less air resistance when you're cutting through the air. You're going to have less resistance from the arms, and then you have the kind of signature Floss style motor protection here with not a lot of material, so it's really light. So definitely, my overall impressions is it's really well designed, very light, but has kind of a lot of flexibility in how you build it out. So, to compare to the Martian, we can just use this plate, but my Martian has the longer 6-inch arms on it, so it looks like a monster. But look how it's tiny. I can't even fit the Martian in the camera, but look how much smaller this plate is than the Martian. The Martian is just huge, and the Martian is an alien clone essentially. But look at how much smaller the FlosStyle is in the Martian. The Martian's got tons of space inside, but not a lot of ways to mount it because you don't have all these mounting holes. Like here, you just have the middle piece. Not only that, but look at all of the bolts you need for this thing. You got to put all these bolts together. You have 2, 4, 6, 8 standoffs, just like in the FlosStyle. But then you also have all these extra bolts for the arms, and then these bolts in here, these 4 middle ones, they hold your stack together and the arms. And sharing the flight stack with the arms is just a pain when you have to do repairs and stuff. I've flown this thing a lot. I've put it through its paces, and it's got a lot of really cheap components in there, but I've gotten it to fly pretty decently, and it's a whole lot of fun. So I mean, this one's not dead yet. I'm gonna still fly this, but it's got, you know, your really cheap Racer Star motors, 2205s, because I bought these, you know, just before the DYS budget motors came out. The other major difference is the geometry. This one's got your like a squished X, right? And this one has more of a stretched X. So if you look at them like this, the X's almost match up this way. So this one, the geometry is very different. The geometry on this, being closer to a stretched X, not quite a true X, is going to give you, again, cleaner air in the back. So it's going to change the flight characteristics, which I'm very excited to try out and just kind of see how it goes. Why is this frame so good? Well, a few reasons. One, it's very simple. Simplicity with the amount of parts that you need. That way, if you break something, you can easily replace it, and you know it's coming from Pyroflip, so you know you're going to have great customer service and great support behind it. Not only is it simple, but it shares parts with other frames. These arms are the same as on the Floss and some of the other stuff. So that simplicity really helps it out. The bolts, like I was talking about before, you just need 8. You have 2, 4, 6, 8, and that's it. That's all you need. And then your flight stack is not, you're not sharing anything with the rest of the frame, which is perfect. So the simplicity is awesome for a beginner or an advanced pilot, because it's going to be easy to build, easy to repair, easy to work on. You don't need a lot of, it's all using standard parts, and that just is really fantastic, is really helpful. Second reason I like this so much is it's very flexible. Even though it's simple, you know, the mounting options are really cool. I'm interested to see what some people come up with and how they mount on the inside here. I'm going to do a normal 30 stack here, and then I'll do like, I'll mount my VTX here. But you could probably even do, you know, if you want to run a run cam split mini, you could put that 2-board piece here, and then you could run your, you know, whatever 20 by 20 stack here, and then even here. Because, you know, these are, it's going to be, this is a low build. It comes with 20 millimeter standoffs, so it's pretty low down. But the amount of flexibility within how to build it is just really neat. Also, I don't see why you couldn't make this the top plate, and pretend I have these bolts going down the other way. Make this the bottom plate, and then have yourself a mid mount, kind of like some of the Hyperlow stuff. Now you're going to have, this is going to take up some of your stack space, but if you use an all-in-one, and you can make a mid-mount design, which, why not? Like, you can use an all-in-one board or a small stack there. And with, you know, with the top and the bottom plate being the same, if you wanted to, you know, you could mount things, you know, upside down, or you can mount them on either side. There's just a lot of cool things you can do with it, and I just really like that a lot. So the third thing that I really like about this frame, and I've alluded to it a few times, is kind of the pedigree or the history of where it comes from. Kebab FPV, Bob Ruge, has made some really great frames, some very iconic frames, and he's continued to iterate on them. They continue to improve. He didn't make the Floss and leave it. He kept updating it, and so at this point, I think they've come to a place where the design philosophy has really reached a great point, and I think they're going to support this kind of design for a long time. And that's just really great to buy into something that you're not going to have to worry about, and you can really use it for a long period of time without worrying. So yeah, those are kind of the 3 main areas of this frame that I really like. The 3 kind of pros, so to speak, would be, you know, the simplicity, the flexibility, and kind of the history, the pedigree of where this comes from. I was originally, before I bought this frame, before I knew it was out, I was going to buy the Hyperlow CG, and the reason I didn't go with the CG and I went with this instead was because this is cheaper. 2, it has a lot less parts. The CG has a lot more bolts and stuff. This does one of the things that I really liked on the CG, which was the stacking, building it out down the middle of this here. I think that's really awesome. The only thing I had to buy extra was the Brain 3D mount. It comes with all the other hardware you need, with a micro camera mount and all that kind of other stuff. It doesn't come with an extra arm or whatever like the Hyperlow CG, but I don't think you really need that. So that's one of the reasons, that's kind of why I went with this frame instead of the Hyperlow CG. I guess lastly, to finish this out, I'll mention a couple of the cons. And really the only negatives or downsides I see to this frame are the fact that you can only use a micro camera. You can't use any other camera size. Only a micro camera is going to work, but that's done by design. You know, that was intentional. And then the other thing is you can't really put ESCs on the arm. I mean, I guess you could, but they're so skinny compared to, you know, a normal thick. Obviously I have a 4-in-1 in here too. But again, that was by design. He made this for a 4-in-1 stack, so I don't really see that as a big negative. So all in all, it's just a really well-designed frame. I'm curious to see how people use some of the flexibility in there, but you can just build it out like normal as well. I'm doing kind of a pseudo budget build on this guy. I'm not going crazy and getting all standard top-of-the-line gear. I'm saving some money on a few pieces. Perhaps I'll make a little video on my build and my process. Again, I'm a beginner. I've only been flying for a few months, and this is all I got so far. But I'm looking forward to switching over to some higher rated ESCs, an F4, and just a better frame overall, better motors, the whole 9. So thanks for watching, guys. Sorry this was a little bit scattered. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be more than happy to answer them. Though I am a beginner, I have spent a lot of time doing research and kind of playing out the pros and cons of what to get and what not to get. And I think that you know, I'm just really happy with this frame and very excited to see what it'll do for me in the future. So yeah, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you in another video. Bye.